June 4, 1942, 0430 hours. Midway Atoll. The horizon is still black, a thin bruise of blue forming along the edge of the Pacific. Waves slap against the coral reef with a slow, heavy rhythm, like a warning drum nobody wants to hear. Inside the tiny American outpost, pilots and radio men move in ghostly silhouettes. Boots thump on wooden floorboards. Engines cough awake. The air smells of salt, oil, and fear. A young Marine radioman, Corporal Thomas Brackett, wipes sweat from his palms even though the morning air is cold. The code breakers had been right. The Japanese were coming. You can almost feel his pulse quicken as he presses the headphones tighter against his ears, searching for the first hint of trouble in the static. Then it hits. A thin, rising hum. Faint, then louder, then unmistakable. Airplanes. Dozens. He looks up, and the night sky suddenly splits open. High above Midway, the first Japanese bombers appear like dagger-shaped shadows, their engines vibrating the very air. The Americans knew the attack would come. Just not this soon. Not like this. Raid inbound. Someone shouts from the operations shack. Multiple formations. Bearing 320. Floodlights snap off. Sirens begin to wail. Pilots sprint across the sand, boots slipping in the darkness, scrambling toward their Wildcats as bullets and shrapnel begin tearing through the base. This is the opening blow of the Battle of Midway. But what nobody here can see, what nobody here knows, is that thousands of miles away, on the Japanese carriers advancing steadily toward them, the commanders are certain of one thing: America will break. Because for months, Japan's admirals had mocked the United States Navy, calling its tiny carriers Yosai no Oyadori, toy nests, small, weak, improvised. Nothing compared to the proud floating fortresses of the Imperial Japanese Navy. They believed the battle was a formality. June 4, 1942, 0430 hours. Midway Atoll. The horizon is still black, a thin bruise of blue forming along the edge of the Pacific. Waves slap against the coral reef with a slow, heavy rhythm, like a warning drum nobody wants to hear. Inside the tiny American outpost, pilots and radio men move in ghostly silhouettes. Boots thump on wooden floorboards. Engines cough awake. The air smells of salt, oil, and fear. A young Marine radioman, Corporal Thomas Brackett, wipes sweat from his palms even though the morning air is cold. The code breakers had been right. The Japanese were coming. You can almost feel his pulse quicken as he presses the headphones tighter against his ears, searching for the first hint of trouble in the static. Then it hits. A thin, rising hum. Faint, then louder, then unmistakable. Airplanes. Dozens. He looks up, and the night sky suddenly splits open. High above Midway, the first Japanese bombers appear like dagger-shaped shadows, their engines vibrating the very air. The Americans knew the attack would come. Just not this soon. Not like this. Raid inbound. Someone shouts from the operations shack. Multiple formations. Bearing 320. Floodlights snap off. Sirens begin to wail. Pilots sprint across the sand, boots slipping in the darkness, scrambling toward their Wildcats as bullets and shrapnel begin tearing through the base. This is the opening blow of the Battle of Midway. But what nobody here can see, what nobody here knows, is that thousands of miles away, on the Japanese carriers advancing steadily toward them, the commanders are certain of one thing: America will break. Because for months, Japan's admirals had mocked the United States Navy, calling its tiny carriers Yosai no Oyadori, toy nests, small, weak, improvised. Nothing compared to the proud floating fortresses of the Imperial Japanese Navy. They believed the battle was a formality. Spruance's jaw is tight. He knows his carriers are outgunned, outnumbered, outclassed in almost every technical way. But he also knows something the Japanese do not. America has cracked the code. And this morning, this exact morning, Japan is sailing straight into the trap. A junior officer approaches, voice shaking slightly with adrenaline. Sir, scout plane reports enemy forces. Possible carriers. Spruance nods, eyes never leaving the chart. Launch everything, he says calmly. Everything we have. The order rolls through the ship like electricity. Below deck, pilots grab their gear with trembling hands. Mechanics spin propellers. Push crews shove steaming aircraft to the deck edge. The smell of exhaust fills the air, thick and metallic. This will be the most important launch of their lives. But none of them, know just how close America is to losing the battle before it even begins. Because at this moment, the Japanese carriers Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu are preparing for a second strike on Midway. Their decks are crowded with fully fueled aircraft. Bombs lie exposed. Fuel hoses snake across the planks. A spark, just one, would turn the ship into a floating inferno. Catastrophe waiting to happen. And the Americans are on their way. But time is running out. The fog of war is thick. The ocean is vast. And the first American squadrons searching for the Japanese carriers are flying, unknowingly, toward disaster. Because they're going the wrong way. June 4th, 1942. 0653 hours. The Pacific is calm, too calm. The sun climbs higher, turning the ocean into a blinding sheet of silver as the first American strike groups push deeper into the vast empty blue. Torpedo Squadron 8 VT-8 flies in a tight formation, engines droning like a funeral march. 15 TBD Devastators, slow, under-armored, obsolete, and leading them is Lieutenant Commander John Waldron, a man who knows he might be flying to his death. You can almost feel the tension pressing on his shoulders as he glances down at his map. Creases worn, pencil marks fading. The wind tears at his goggles. Salt stings his face. His squadron trusts him completely. Many of them are barely out of training. But Waldron's gut twists. Something is wrong. They should have seen the Japanese by now. He checks the compass again. The heading sent from the carrier Hornet doesn't match his instincts. He's flown these seas for years. He knows how the Japanese think, how they maneuver, how they hide. He scans the horizon. Nothing. Just endless water. And then he makes a decision that will define Midway. Waldron rocks his wings to signal the squadron. His voice crackles over the radio. We're turning southwest. Follow me. That's where they'll be. For a moment, the radio is silent. The formation trembles with uncertainty. He has just disobeyed orders. Finally, his wingmen bank their aircraft, one by one, falling in behind him. Their trust outweighs their fear. 15 slow, vulnerable Devastators change direction. Alone, with no fighter escort, flying straight toward the most powerful naval striking force on Earth. Far behind them, the rest of Hornet's strike group keeps flying the wrong heading. Dozens of SBD dive bombers. Dozens of torpedo planes, all pushing deeper into nothingness. Confusion spreads through the formation. Pilots check their fuel gauges, already dropping. The ocean below looks like a repeating pattern, as if the world itself is looping. Some begin to wonder if they've been sent on a suicide mission. Others wonder if the Japanese simply vanished. The truth is worse. They were never there. Back aboard the Enterprise, the situation grows tense. Reports come in, and then contradict themselves. Some say the Japanese are northeast. Others say southwest. Others, no contact at all. Inside the ready room, pilots pace in circles, helmets under their arms. Every minute they wait is another minute the Japanese inch closer to finding the American carriers first. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey, calm, lean, sharp-eyed, steps into the sunlight on the flight deck, listening to the rush of aircraft launching into the morning air. He has flown hundreds of hours over the Pacific, but today his chest is tight. His orders are simple. Find the enemy, at any cost. But as he climbs into his Dauntless, he knows one thing. If he chooses the wrong search path, America will lose Midway. The wheels leave the deck. The sea drops away beneath him. His squadron forms up behind him, SBDs glinting like shark's fins in the sun. They fly, and fly, and fly. The ocean stretches to infinity. Fuel drains. Nobody speaks. McCluskey's jaw clenches. The calculations don't add up. Something about the Japanese movements from earlier recon reports keeps gnawing at him. His fuel gauge creeps lower. His men are depending on him. He stares at the horizon, searching for a sign, a shadow, a plume of smoke, a ship's wake, anything, but the sky remains painfully, brutally empty. Meanwhile, far ahead of Hornet and Enterprise, Waldron's rogue squadron streaks closer to the Japanese fleet. The sun is higher now, the air hot inside their cockpits. Then, Waldron sees a glint. He blinks, leans forward, squints through the glare. Another glint, then another. Metal, aircraft, ships, an entire armada. He's found them, but in that same moment the Japanese spot him too. From the carriers Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu, dozens of Zero fighters rise into the sky like angry hornets, sunlight flashing off their wings. Waldron knows instantly what that means. His men won't survive. Not all of them, maybe not any of them, but he pushes the throttle forward, engine screaming. We go in. His voice is steady, unshaken. This is what we came for. One of his young pilots whispers into the mic, barely audible over the engine noise. Skipper, they're all over us. Waldron answers quietly. Do your best, boys. We'll take some hits. Keep going. Ahead of them, the Japanese carriers turn slowly into the wind. Perfect targets. Wide open. But the Zeros dive, and a wall of fire rises to meet Waldron's squadron. The first bullets tear through the formation. In seconds, the sky becomes a storm of tracers. Yet Waldron isn't turning back. Not now. Not ever. His men follow him into the fire, flying straight toward the carriers that were supposed to be untouchable. The Japanese commanders watch from their bridges, confident, almost amused. These American torpedo planes are slow, clumsy, outdated. Toy carriers, they had laughed. Toy planes. But this moment, this exact moment, is the beginning of their downfall. Because Waldron's sacrifice is about to change everything. And far above the ocean, still searching blindly, Wade McCluskey is about to make a discovery that will alter the course of the war. A shape in the water, a thin trail, a single impossible clue, one that will lead him directly to the Japanese fleet. June 4, 1942, 0920 hours. The sky above the Japanese fleet is alive with fire. Zeros twist and dive in tight spirals, their engines screaming as their guns spit white-hot tracers. Torpedo Squadron 8 VT-8 is being torn apart piece by piece. Lieutenant Commander John Waldron keeps pressing forward, his Devastator shuddering under the impact of hits. The cockpit smells of burning oil. His controls vibrate violently. Still, he dives lower. He has only one goal left. Draw the Zeros down. Make them chase him. By time for the dive bombers that haven't arrived yet. A young pilot beside him, Ensign George Gay, watches his friends fall from the sky one after another. Devastators erupt in fireballs, trailing smoke, spiraling into the sea. There is no panic, only determination. You can almost taste the salt in the air as Waldron pushes his throttle forward again, aiming straight at the carrier Hiryu. But the Zeros swarm him now, 10, 12, maybe 15. A burst of gunfire shreds his left wing. Another burst hits the fuselage. Black smoke pours from the engine. Waldron keys his mic one last time. Roll in. Press the attack. God be with you. Seconds later, his Devastator plunges into the sea. One by one, VT-8 is annihilated. 15 planes had launched. 14 are already gone. Only one man will survive. George Gay, floating alone in the ocean, watching the battle continue around him. And yet, Waldron has done exactly what he needed to do. Because the Japanese fighters, every last Zero, are now pulled down to sea level, chasing the slow American torpedo planes. The Japanese air defense umbrella has collapsed downward. Their carriers are exposed, wide open, waiting. And at that exact moment, completely unaware of the slaughter below them, the Americans finally catch a break. 0932 hours. High above the empty Pacific, Wade McCluskey stares down at a thin, lonely shape slicing through the water. A destroyer, speeding full throttle, leaving a long white wake. The Japanese destroyer Arisher. But why is it moving so fast? Why is it alone? McCluskey thinks. Hard. Destroyers don't run at flank speed unless something urgent has happened. He looks closer. The wake curves, an aggressive, hasty turn. A realization hits him like a punch. Ayrshire must have been chasing an American submarine a few minutes earlier. And now it's racing back to rejoin the main fleet. Which means McCluskey swings his dauntless in a tight arc, heart pounding. Follow that wake. Dozens of dive bombers pivot behind him, engines roaring. The ocean below flashes, the sunlight reflecting like broken glass. The pilots lean forward in their seats, adrenaline spiking, because this is it. Either McCluskey is right, or they will run out of fuel and ditch into the sea. Minutes pass. Then, through the haze, shapes emerge. Dark tops, long shadows, columns of smoke. Ships, more ships. Then the unmistakable flat silhouettes of carriers. 3 of them. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu. The heart of the Japanese striking force. McCluskey exhales, relief mixed with dread. They've found the fleet, but they are almost out of time. His fuel gauge is dangerously low. His men's tanks are even lower. There will be no second chance. They get one attack, one dive. After that, they may not make it home. On the Akagi. Admiral Chuchi Nagumo stands calmly on the bridge, hands behind his back. His carriers have just finished arming for a second strike on Midway. Aircraft line the decks. Fully fueled, bombs stacked, torpedoes exposed. Crews rush back and forth, tightening clamps, securing payloads. The flight deck is chaos. The kind of chaos only moments from victory. Nagumo believes the Americans are nowhere near them. He believes his fleet is untouchable. He believes Midway will fall within hours. He has no idea that 2 miles above him, death is falling out of the sky. McCluskey rolls his plane left and right, signaling the attack. His voice is steady, calm, far calmer than the moment deserves. We're going in. Pick your targets. Good luck. The dauntless break formation, each diving individually. The scream of wind fills the cockpit, deafening. Gravity drags the aircraft downward at terrifying speed. 260 knots, 280, 300. The ocean rushes upward. The carriers grow larger. The deck crews look like ants scattering. The pilots angle their noses toward the ships. Crosshairs locked. Sweat soaking their gloves. Hearts pounding so hard you can almost hear them. Bomb bay doors open. The dive begins. One after another. And the Japanese look up. And for the first time that day, they panic. Zeros are still down at sea level, finishing off the torpedo squadrons. The sky above the carriers is empty, defenseless. Nagumo's officers shout orders. Deck crews abandon their planes. Fuel sloshes across the deck. Bombs lie waiting unsecured. A spark would be enough. A single explosion would ignite everything. And the Americans are seconds away from delivering exactly that. This is the minute. The single minute. The minute that determines who wins the Pacific. Because everything is about to explode. Zeros are still down at sea level, finishing off the torpedo squadrons. The sky above the carriers is empty, defenseless. Nagumo's officers shout orders. Deck crews abandon their planes. Fuel sloshes across the deck. Bombs lie waiting unsecured. A spark would be enough. A single explosion would ignite everything. And the Americans are seconds away from delivering exactly that. This is the minute. The single minute. The minute that determines who wins the Pacific. Because everything is about to explode.